So, Keir Starmer, let's talk first about that famous magic money tree, because I want you to level with us. If you don't get the economic growth that you want as an incoming government, either spending will have to be cut drastically or that government will have to tax or borrow more. Which is your choice?
My choice is the growth that we need, because without it, we would be taxing an ever-reducing return and spending money from that reduced pot. So we have to grow the economy.
Yeah, but if that doesn't happen, what's your plan B? That
is the mission of my government, to grow that economy. That's why we've already set out some of the planks to grow the economy, the investment we need for the next generation of jobs, the skills that we're going to need for the next generation of jobs, the buy, make and sell more in Britain policy that we've put in place, the partnership with business, the stripping away of business rates to make the playing field more level for those that are working in an environment where they pay business taxes rather than digital working. So all those pieces are in place, because the single biggest problem of the last 12 years is the stagnant economy. It's why we've ended up with this cost of living crisis where prices are through the roof and wages are through the floor. And so we have to grow the economy.
Yeah, but the government's saying the same thing. I'm just talking about if you don't get what you want on the economy, I'm just looking for a direction of travel, because there could be an election very soon, who knows? So if you won that general election, would the tax burden, the highest since the 1940s, go higher?
What I want is a fair taxation system, and therefore what we're looking at is all forms of income being taxed fairly, whether earned or not. So those who've got property portfolios should pay their fair share. Those that have got stocks and shares should pay their fair share. So the first question for us will be a matter of principle, a tax system that is fair, reducing the burden on working people. The second question will be, is it efficient? There are many, many loopholes in our tax system. We're reviewing every single one of them to see whether they're value for money, whether they work, or whether they should be closed down, which is what we'll do if they don't.
But when
then
you talk about
the third principle is to make sure that businesses are operating on a level playing field, because too many businesses feel that business rates now are holding them back, and in an online world, that's not a level playing field. So they're the principles that we'll apply. But I can't, overstate how growing the economy is the single biggest mission. If this government had grown the economy in the same way the last Labour government did, we'd have billions of pounds for public services without actually altering the tax system at all.
I know you want a fairer tax system, but is it possible that the tax burden could go even higher or not? Are you ruling that out?
Well, look, we'll have to see what the state of the economy is when we get to a general election. But what I can say is this: each and every commitment that we're making is costed. Compare that to what you've seen in the last 2 or 3 days. This morning, I did a speech saying there were £200 billion worth of uncosted spending commitments by the Tory candidates. That's gone up to £300 billion during the course of today. And the question for every Tory candidate is, tell us, how are you going to pay for this? Is it cuts? If so, what are you going to cut? Is it borrowing? If so, how much are you borrowing? If not, is it the magic money tree, which I suspect it is for pretty well all of them.
So let's test out your commitment to avoiding the magic money tree. You mentioned reforming public services in your speech this morning. Would a Labour government be prepared to reform the NHS so that it costs the taxpayer less?
What I want to do with the NHS, which I've set out this morning and on a previous occasion, is to turn it to a preventative model. We've been grappling with this for years, which is how do we prevent illness rather than just treating illness once it arises. That's the key for the NHS.
And that could end up costing the taxpayer less. You're in theory, in principle,
well, it does
you're keen on the idea of changing the NHS, the way it operates, to cost the taxpayer less money.
One of the points I made this morning in relation to public services is that not only do we need to change the model to a preventative model, but we have to get away from the idea that simply putting more money into the model we've got is the way forward. A preventative model. Same on mental health. Millions of days are lost every year because people are struggling with mental health, yet it's almost impossible to get an assessment. We've made strong commitments in relation to that. We've said the same about crime, by the way, which is how do we do the prevention work rather than the very high cost after the event. When I was Director of Public Prosecutions, I grappled with this question all of the time. If you want to reduce the cost burden of crime and the impact burden, then you've got to move to a preventative model.
You know, it's sounding very Blairite. I wonder, are you taking advice from the the last Labour leader to win a general election.
Well, it's actually sounding very 21st century because these are the problems
What's
that
the
we
answer
are
to that
inheriting.
question, though?
Well, of course, I'm talking to Tony Blair, I'm talking to Gordon Brown, I'm talking to lots of people. I'm particularly keen to talk to people who have won elections because I inherited the Labour Party in 2020. We just lost very badly. In the 2 years I've been leader of the Labour Party, we've changed the Labour Party. We've demonstrated through the local elections this year and the Wakefield by-election we've just had that we're on track for a Labour government. I want a majority Labour government, and I will talk to those that have won elections because I didn't come into politics to be in opposition. I came into politics to change lives, and that means winning elections.
If you get what you want and the next Prime Minister calls a general election, people still aren't clear what you stand for. So what would the general election slogan be? Try it out in the studio now.
The mission, what's the mission of an incoming Labour government? It is to grow the economy, and not to just grow it in a way that leaves some people out. We've got to grow it in a way that the economy is strong, it's secure, and it's inclusive, where everybody, wherever they live, whatever city, whatever town, whatever place, can contribute to the growing of our economy and the rewards that we get for that. There's a race on for the next generation of jobs in climate. We need to win that race. Some country has got to be the leader in new nuclear or hydrogen. Why can't it be us? We've got a race to win. We want to grow the economy. We've got great ambition for our country. We need a fresh start. We don't need a new Tory leader. We need the change that we really need in Britain, which is a Labour government.
After all the drama of the last few weeks, months and years, do you think people actually want their politicians to be a little bit boring?
Look, the only thing boring is being in opposition.
No, I know you've rehearsed that, but I'm just asking you a straight question. Do people want their politicians to be boring?
As I sit down, I go around the country the whole time. It's the best bit of the week, by the way. We finish in Parliament, I go around, talk to community groups, talk to businesses, etc. And none of them say to me, and I say, what do you want from a government? How do you want to take this forward? What are your ambitions? None of them say to me, Keir, what we need. We need a few more jokes, we need a bit of entertainment, and then these bills that we can't pay or sometimes magically go away. They say, we want a serious plan, we want a leader in a government that's got integrity that we can believe in, and we need to move forward as a country. And
are you actually proud of being boring, though?
Look, the only thing that's boring is being in opposition. Just look at what happened last week. I, put my career on the line because I was clear I hadn't breached any rules in relation to the allegations in Durham. And I did that because I profoundly believe that politics is a force for good, that when politicians' words can be believed, we can change things for the better, just as we did when we introduced the NHS, just as we did with the Equal Pay Act, just as we did when we brought people together in Northern Ireland around the Good Friday Agreement. These weren't a laugh, but they changed Britain. Okay. And that's what I want to do with the next Labour government, taking on the challenges of the 21st century, just as past Labour governments have taken on the challenges of the past.
OK, tell us one interesting or surprising thing about yourself that we don't already know, by the way.
Oh, well, look, I did violin lessons with Fatboy Slim back in the day, and I'm sure some of the things... That's absolutely true, absolutely true. I played football with Chris Evans, who I was on the radio with this morning. So I don't know what else you don't know, but there's lots and lots of things.
Those were two good things for starters. Just finally, would Prime Minister Sunak be a tougher opponent than Prime Minister Johnson?
Well, I'm not engaging in that question. I don't really mind who the leader is, because the change we need is not... a change of leadership at the top of the Tory party. We need a general election.
He poses a different challenge, doesn't he?
What I do find bizarre is that in the last 3 days, most of the candidates are behaving as if they've just arrived from the moon and saying, well, things are really rough around here. Look at the state of the country. We need to restore trust. We need to rebuild the economy. They might do with scratching their heads and saying, who's been running the country for the last 12 years? They've been running it. Rishi Sunak has introduced 15 tax rises for working people in the middle of a cost of living crisis.
Is he a tougher opponent than Boris Johnson? Yes or no?
Look, I don't mind who's leading the Conservative Party. That isn't the question that is facing Britain. The questions facing Britain is, how do we get out of this position where we're stuck, move forward, and we can only do that with a fresh start with the Labour government.
Sir Keir Starmer, thanks very much.
Thank you.